Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
I'm your host, Zach Cherry. With me, as always, is...
Look what your brother did to the door! Eddie of Edward is Truth.
And today we are talking about the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Release
accent on the saw.
Well, it's I don't know why. Well, the logo I've got up here for those of watching, I don't know why it's smushed together as chainsaw, but the title, like, look it up on IMDb, it's Chain Saw. Yeah.
It says it on mine.
There's
but it really depends on what poster you look at, because some of them it alternates.
Yeah.
So for this movie, all the other ones are pretty consistent. They either lean one way or the other, but this one, yeah.
But that's how you differentiate between the original and the remake, because the remake is the Texas Chain Saw.
Differentiate.
No, if you go on IMDb. So, okay, look, here's the thing. Every title in this franchise is like a variation of itself. I think we've talked about this before.
Yes, we have.
But it's just like, I think the most nuanced title of the franchise is probably Texas Chain Saw Massacre: The Next Generation, I want to say, or the beginning, like the most difference, because everything else is like, you know, there's 2 Leatherfaces, there's like 6 Texas Chainsaws. So, you know, what are we to do? Anyway, this particular iteration, this original was released October 11th, 1974. We're coming up on 50 here, but we're doing it.
Oh my god!
We're doing it in the middle of August because, I mean, it's National Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day. I don't know if that's like an actual thing, but it's August 18th. That's when it happened.
Lovely.
Yeah. So we've sort of covered this before. This is our episode 3, and back then we were a little overzealous because I think we wanted to cover the new one. There was when it was new, Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
the 2022
Netflix.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna make an episode that's all the movies in one, so we're ready for the new one. And oh my god, that's not worth it. That's not worth brushing through all these movies to get to that one. So,
I guess you had high hopes.
We're doing a do-over, and as you know, we don't really go in order with some of these things. I mean, we've been going in order with the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Child's Plays, but with the Halloweens, like, that's been we're going backwards and sideways. So you know, we want a little bit more.
Did we already do Freddy versus Jason too?
We did Freddy versus Jason. Yeah. I think that was a year ago. It's been a
there's a few. We jump around every now and then if it suits us, you know.
Yeah, we just do what we want here.
That's right.
But that gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the original in depth. Which will be nice. So what am I doing here? Who am I right now? Who am I here?
You're Zach Cherry. This is the Cherry Picker pod.
Thank you.
Where we like to kill people, but not really.
But we also like to chit chat and catch up with each other because it's good to check in on your friends. So how are you doing, Edward?
Oh my God, I'm really glad that it's finally August because I'm so ready. I think I go through this every year, so ready for summer to go away. And I love that particularly more so in the past few years, there seems to be like an online community push for that's like usher, or even an ushering, you know, of like, let's start celebrating Halloween in July when we really want to. And I'm totally more and more I'm realizing that's kind of what I've always done, but now that I know there's like a world beyond myself that is also sharing in that yearning, that longing. I mean, look at me. I'm farmer tanned and everything. It's good because we're doing, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I should be farmer tanned for this. Yeah. But that's other than that, I'm just tired and hot all the time. How about you?
You're kind of like, you got the Jason Part 2 blue plaid on.
Is it blue?
It's got a little blue.
It's navy. Navy, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
You can see it better than I can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're recording this. It's August 4th, so we're early in the month. But by the time this releases, it's like, we're gonna be the 13th. It's like summer is basically up in 2 weeks. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I love summer. I hate hot, and I hate cold.
What do you love about summer?
What do I love about it? That's a very good question that now as you're asking, it's making me rethink my entire philosophy on it, because I'm just going back to like childhood and like, yay, summer break, and just like, just hanging out and doing kid stuff and like, going out on your bikes and maybe like, if people liked going to summer camp, sometimes it was fun for me, sometimes it wasn't. But that was pretty cool. I guess it was just like, it was just no school. So that was incentive enough to enjoy it. And now that we're adults and that's just not how the world works, because there's no such thing as summer break. It's like, well, now it's just hot and I'm sweaty and I have to like shower twice a day, maybe more if it's like really bad out. I've got to do my laundry constantly. Just shit like that, like, hook up the portable AC. I've got a fan on me right now. Hopefully that's not too disruptive, but it's like, there was one we were doing a few weeks ago, maybe it was the Shining, and I was just like, you could just see like my complexion by the end. Like I was just like spitzing like crazy in there. So,
right.
So I mean, I'm good. I mean, like ideally like September, October, perfect time of the year. My favorite time of the year too, because it's not too, I mean, what's the date in Miss Congeniality?
I don't know. Oh, don't ask me.
You know the quote. Okay, well, that's, I mean, I think that was like in April or something. But like for me, it's not too hot, not too cold, just somewhere right in the middle there.
All right, Goldilocks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because winters here are unforgiving.
I just love that I barely had to pull at that thread just to get your entire I love summer to just unravel before
Well, let's just
us.
put it this way. Like if I, like, first off, if I were in the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, like that already looks like an uncomfortable situation based on the heat of everything alone. Like that's just that I would die. I would be killed. Remember that video I did on my main channel a while ago? It's just like, which franchise would you survive based on your zodiac sign? Oh my god, how fitting, because they talk about zodiac signs in here. But
there you go.
yeah, like this would I believe Texas Chainsaw was designated to Taurus because simply for the fact that they ain't going in there. And I feel like I don't want to go in there, but I probably would find myself in a situation like that, and just I probably be so uncomfortable that I'd just be like, you know what, just kill me now, just get it over with, because I don't want to suffer a moment more.
Well, maybe we'll come back to that. You sparked something in me that I thought of while I was screening it for this particular sitting, and it just made me wonder in terms of the personalization of, like, sometimes we do that where it's like, in this movie, like who would you be, or like what would you do, and that kind of stuff. And I just had one of those kinds of questions once we get into it.
Yeah.
So,
well, before we do that, I also just wanted to say, I mean, right now it is August 4th, and as you've probably known if you've been listening to the podcast for the last little while, I am, at this point, I would have launched the Kickstarter campaign for my movie MACABRE, a short film that I'm making with my filmmaker friend Eric Champney, which we are putting together as a proof of concept for a feature film. So even though it hasn't started when we're recording it, I want to thank everybody who's listening in the future for being so supportive and everything you've done. That's really awesome, and I appreciate that. Zach from the past is saying that. But if you're hearing about it for the first time, I will put all the links down in the thing, whether you're listening to it on whatever, or watching it on YouTube, you can find the info there and check it out. But I do also want to thank my Patreon supporters, who without them, we wouldn't be able to do this as frequently as we do, which is pretty much every week here. So I do want to thank my Michael Myers tier supporters: Kyle Beard, Sam Levy, Ellie Hamouche, Shane Allingham, Tim McKay, Stephanie Starbright, Horror Slut 95, Bruce the Genetic Jackhammer Rando, Josh Carr, Michael Boswell, Brandy BB, and then my Ghostface supporters: Eric Champney, Daniel Saturn, and Garrison Nichols. I don't see Baby Ghoul on here. I hope she comes back to us soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you would also like to support the podcast, you will get early access to all of our episodes. You'll also get, if you are supporting on the Freddy Krueger tier, access to the Cherry Picker After Dark, which we do once a month. It is a Patreon exclusive, and we've done like more than 25 of them now, so you could even hop on now and go back and catch up on the back catalog of all that. And we always do fun things like rankings and whatnot, and we actually do have a ranking coming up at the end of this month. So this is the end of the summer episode. What are we doing, Edward?
007 Bond, James Bond. We're discussing that franchise.
So much enthusiasm.
I'm making my way. You're gonna want to hear this, folks.
Oh,
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a fun conversation because I have so many questions.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be exciting to launch into non-horror stuff. Because we sometimes like to do that, but mostly we're here for the horror, so we're gonna get into that. But yes, if you'd like to support, head over to my Patreon account, patreon.com/ZackCherry. I would also like to thank our podcast editor, Jason Voorhees Galatello. Thank you very much for slashing and hacking through all this for us. Do you have a premise for the Texas Chain Saw Massacre?
Yeah, I do. Okay. The podcast which you are about to experience is a discussion of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths, in particular Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother Franklin. Had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished, to see as much of the mad and the macabre as an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare and the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history: the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. I started to whisper toward the end there. I ran out of gas.
What would have happened if Sally and Franklin lived very long lives together? I mean, there would have been a different kind of torment for the rest of them.
They wouldn't have been happy. Yeah. They wouldn't have lived happily ever after. I know that, but...
No. Well, that always confused me in the opening too, because it's sort of like implying like that she does die and she doesn't. But I guess is maybe like the implication is that she's just like gone insane.
I mean,
if we're going by certain canon
right
of sequels.
I mean, I don't think anyone watches her in those final frames of the movie and thinks she just kind of brushes herself off once they're out of earshot and she just kind of walks away. Yeah. I don't think she was really quite ever the same after all that. She was already
like really high strung before she discovered the murder was going on, because like Franklin was just driving her nuts. Okay, I want to say this about this movie because I don't remember what I said the last time we discussed it. This is obviously more in your wheelhouse than it is mine. Like you love Texas Chainsaw through and through. I can take it or leave it. This is not a movie that I'm obsessed with by any means, but like, holy crap, is it effective? This is like probably one of the most effective horror movies ever, because it like really gets at your senses. Like it's just so disturbing, and it does it from the start, and it does it even like those little moments where it's just like you're just dealing with Sally and Franklin, and it's just like, my God, like this is like, get me out of here. I want to be somewhere that is not here. And that is, and it just gets worse and worse as it goes along, that by the time you're at the end, like it's just you, like, you know, like Sally has just become like an avatar for the audience. She just sort of like, get the fuck out of that house and like have the movie end. So I mean, like in that regard, it's just like this movie is a masterpiece to me. And the one thing that I was really kind of picking up on at this viewing was just how great all of the performances were, because I believe that every single one of these people is that person. Like I like watching it, I'm just like, Franklin, that is an actor playing that guy. The hitchhiker, that is an actor playing that guy. And yet they just feel like that is that person. That exists. And it's like, that is just such a testament to the abilities that are on display here.
There was a saying I heard from a horror fan who had a few decades on me, and I think I've heard it in other documentaries as well. Like a lot of people, whenever they would cite kind of like I guess, you know, the the international hoodwink that Blair Witch pulled on its audience, you know, in terms of like advertising as a documentary and getting people to believe that they were watching actual footage, and then when they saw the level of authenticity was such that a lot of people believed they were watching actual footage, you know, that had been recovered and very illegally, you know, shown across cinema screens, you know, nationwide at least, if not internationally. But somebody told me once that Texas Chain Saw Massacre was originally that movie, even though it was in no way shot to be delivered as a documentary. The level of authenticity was such that people were really, really unsettled by it, and after a certain point forgot they were watching a movie, felt like they were. There is this incredible kind of like immersive quality where you can feel the heat along with the people who are in the car. You can smell, like I always think about Pam being the first one to really go into that house, and in that room with the chicken feathers and the cage and the bone, you know, furniture and everything. The things hanging from thread and God knows what wire and everything like that, the skull and the, you know, everything, all the body parts, or the bones rather, and just I feel like a big thing and part of her reaction is the smell. Like I don't know, it's one of those things that makes me really, really scared about ever approaching that house as a bed and breakfast now, because I'm like, are you sure it doesn't smell like that anymore? Because it looks like it smells really bad. How do you get that out of the wood? Yeah, I don't know how, especially with hot summers and everything like that. I bet it comes back. I bet it does. Ooh. But anyway. Yeah, we didn't. I thought we had spent more time on this. I went back and I listened to the pod we did where we discussed the franchise, and I felt like, well, we covered most of it, didn't we? I felt like it occupied kind of most of the discussion.
We did the first, because our goal was to do 10 minutes for each one, and then...
And it did not happen.
And poor Andre, he was like, he's like, what? You're doing a longer episode? And now all the episodes are long.
Right.
But yeah, we mostly talked about the first one.
Yeah, we did, but I thought there were things that we had covered, and I'm just kind of like, oh, we didn't talk about that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we got plenty to cover for this particular one, so I'm looking forward to that. But do you want to know how it's available before we fully launch?
I feel like it's available everywhere, but yeah, please.
It is, but I just want to let people know. The most recent release was a 4K Blu-ray combo, released in 2023. Has a 4-star video rating on Blu-ray.com and 5-star audio rating, just like Shining we did. Yeah. And the 40th anniversary release, the one that I have, if you're watching, you can see it right there. Terrifying imagery for me. It's Leatherface in front of the red
You need to upgrade. That's 10 years old by this point.
No, I love this, but this is the thing. 40th anniversary release from 2014 has a 4.5-star video rating, and oh my god, the picture, it's so sexy. And this is not a sexy looking movie, but it makes it look sexy. as sexy as it can.
Yeah.
And a 4.5 star audio rating. So it's still totally, worth getting.
Well, the thing is, like, with 4K, because I love upgrading, all the movies that I love in 4K,
course.
and this is one that I should get on that train. I got the 4K for Hills Have Eyes, like the Wes Craven 1977, and it's like, it doesn't look like it's just like, you could see so much grain. It's like, there's no way that a movie like that could be upgraded to 4K in a way that's just like that is appealing to watch. Like, that's a movie that's like, should be watched dirty and like grindhouse like. So I mean, I feel like I don't know. I'd have to watch. Like, the one that I have, I don't know what version it is. It's like a steelbook, but it was perfectly serviceable. But
Yeah. The sky pops. You really notice the pretty, like when they have those beautiful blue skies with the clouds behind them in any number of shots where they're walking around the houses in that neighborhood, like during the day. That's when it really looks pretty. And the rest of it does have that grain. It does have that grit. But I don't know. There's okay, but that's the thing, because I have my flesh thing, and I have like even just my Leatherface thing. Like, it scares me, and that's why I love watching it. But they get that close up, because I remember the first time I saw this, it was just off of television on the Independent Film Channel, and I didn't get any detail. It was all basically like SD. So watching it in HD and seeing. I for the first time when I watched this Blu-ray, when I got it, I remember I could see the teeth, like in detail, like the mouthpiece that they gave him for his like fucked up teeth.
I was gonna ask you, because at some point, so, like, it looked like it might have been a mouthpiece, but others it's just like, are those his real teeth?
No.
Yeah.
And then they and also you could see his I think you just see one really in detail, but his eye, like literally, just see like the thought in his eye. You can see the acting like that Gunnar Hansen is doing underneath the mask. And the thing that really got me, you can see his eyelashes, and right above them you can see the eyelashes of the mask, and they look, oh my god, the detail work on the mask in particular, it's so chilling, because it's like crisp wax paper, which looks like authentic skin, like what would happen if you literally carefully pulled a face off of a person and preserved it the best you could, and then just kind of strapped it around your head and wore it. See, that's why I love this movie, because it gets under my skin, because I have my flesh thing and my Leatherface thing, and also it me, like I remember in our discussion of Insidious, I talked about kind of like the senses, how it appeals to the sense of sound and the sense of sight, but also the sense of speculatory kind of like temperature. I mean, anytime we talk about an immersive film, and one of the things about this one that I love is that it begins in darkness, and you just hear the sound of someone exerting, themselves physically a little bit, like you're and grunting and everything like that, and it sounds like someone is digging. You can hear the dirt and you can hear the shovel and everything like that, but it's all in black, and you're just left to kind of speculate, like, and my mind immediately went to grave digging. I didn't know if it was to dig a grave for a body that they had just killed freshly, or if they were digging up a freshly, plotted grave. Oh my god, it terrified me.
I have a question. So is and this might be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So is everything that happens at the graveyard in terms of like the desecration and whatnot, is that the Sawyers doing? Or is that just a random thing?
It's, I mean, the only clue we have is, because a lot of stuff gets said by the Sawyers. They're not Sawyers yet in this movie, but we will be referring to them as the Sawyers because Legacy, that's what their last name is. But when the old man, or the cook, as some people refer to him, when the old man first comes across the hitchhiker and gets out of the little truck that he's driving and starts, basically like beating the shit out of him with his broom handle. Yeah. He's yelling, "I told you to stay away from that graveyard." because it's arousing suspicion.
Right.
So I think the only one who's making their way to that graveyard and creating these fucked up art installations is the hitchhiker, because he's got a little bit of, he's a photographer. He loves to work with found objects.
And I guess also the
tableaus.
sound effect, like when we first kind of like open up on something, is kind of like it's a picture being taken. So okay, you've thoroughly convinced me. And then he's obviously hitchhiking because he's been, away, and he's going back home now. Okay, cool. Thank you. No, that was a question. The other question, I have a few.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I remember them all. But the one I do remember is that the barbecue at the gas station, because whatever's like Jerry or whoever is just like, oh, we're gonna get some barbecue. Like, are they just given human like meat out? Because and then I had to think about that. It's just like, it's almost like would a drug dealer like give away their own stash to people? I mean, I guess they're selling it. Maybe that's not a good analogy, but like, it's just like, this is like, why would they want to share that human meat? It would be like, no, this is for us,
I wonder though, because he's the cook.
Yeah.
There's something about like he is sick. Like, I mean, he's the one who can kind of pass for typical, American, oh, you going up there? Oh, well, you don't want to go up there. Go this way. Like the helpful gasoline attendant man who's a cook. But I think the implication is supposed to be that he's sick enough that, number one, I think they don't answer it specifically to get us to speculate about that. I think that's what Tobe Hooper wanted us to wonder as we rewatch the movie, in particular, as Sally is sitting there, after she's escaped Leatherface and made her way, and she thinks she's safe with the cook, and he leaves her alone with that fucking door open. Oh my God, it gets me every time. I'm like, but she looks over and just kind of gazes at the sausage and all of these meat products just hanging.
Because it lingers on it. I'm just like, are we supposed to, like, am I missing something? Like, is something look human in there?
I think the cook would have gotten off on at least intermingling it, like, because, like,
That's that's sort of his thing. Like, if I mean, they all have their weird fetishes, and if what's his face likes to go to the graveyard, then that's what the cook likes to do. And Leatherface, obviously, he wears his different hats or masks, as it were.
The only other thing that kind of like also speaks to that for me is when Franklin, because he gets a sausage, and when they all get back in the van, they drive to Grandma's house. And then he gets out of the van and he's left alone just looking at what the hitchhiker wrote or scrawled on the side of the van. Yeah. He takes a bite of the sausage, and maybe this is just me making mountains out of molehills, but me, headcanon. He takes a bite out of it and then just does a, and I always thought he found some gristle, or he either, like a tendon or maybe even a bone, but didn't think anything of it because, when you eat strange sausage out from the middle of nowhere, maybe they just didn't put it through the meat grinder enough. But I always thought you're bringing back to mind those hands, that we saw in the beginning. Yeah,
and we're not talking about the sequels or anything, but it is kind of, if it was a lingering thread in the first movie, it's kind of answered in the second one with the what was it, like a finger in the chili or something. so yeah, fair enough.
You had another question in the old pod that I kind of answered, but I found out a much better answer for it, definitive answer, I believe.
Okay.
Because we were talking about Leatherface, and you asked, does anyone ever call him Leatherface in the movie? And I said yes, which is correct, but I said it was the cook and the hitchhiker both addressed him as Leatherface, and this time I couldn't hear the cook call him Leatherface once, but the hitchhiker calls him Leatherface twice. Okay. And it's lines that, again, they're like amid a lot of chaos and a lot of other things. They're arguing and everything, so it just kind of goes right by. But he screams at one point, where did I write it down? Oh, hey Leatherface, give me a hand with Grandpa, when he's upstairs and Leatherface has to go upstairs and they have to carry the chair down. And then later, when he's chastising the cook, saying like, me and Leatherface do all the work, he's just a cook. And then they start arguing. And what people usually remember is, Joe, you shut your mouth. You're just a cook. But he does say Leatherface then. Yeah. So, but I think Leatherface was the only one who got a name. You know, like up until that point, it was just Hitchhiker and Old Man. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, you know, because the victims got the names. Grandpa. We never found out his name. Yeah. In this movie. Yeah, I think we do get a name later, but like I said, we established in our franchise discussion that there were 4 movies at the time, because there were 8 total at the time. Yeah. We hadn't seen the latest one. And there were 4 that I found great favoritism toward and 4 that I did not. And then we watched the 2022 one, and it was smack dab in the middle, and I think it still is.
I'm trying to remember. So, yeah, I think your first 4 were the original, 2, Next Generation, and 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heatherface.
Heatherface. I think I might. That's the thing. Like, I think we have very similar rankings of that, because I mean, I didn't despise the new one like people. Like, I thought it was pretty bad. Like, there was a lot of decisions that were made in it. They're just like, why? But like, I know that this franchise has done worse. Like, I think my least favorite will always be TCM 3, because I just find it so boring. Like, it's so dull. But you know, maybe we'll cover that one day. But I was thinking as I was watching it, because I was just like going through their names and just like because it's Kirk, or I was talking to Eric after I watched it. He's like, what's the name of the guy who goes in the first? And he's like, Kirk. And then Pam, and then Jerry, Franklin, Sally. And then I had like a flash forward of the 2022 movie where she's holding up the photo and she's like naming them. And all I could think of was Sarah in Halloween Resurrection. It's like, this is for Kirk and Pam and Jerry, Franklin.
All of them. She can't say. She can't say all the names because she has to leave the least important ones. Just like, I can't remember them.
Who would be the least important to her? Like, surely not
Jerry. She wouldn't have left out Franklin. She wouldn't have left out Jerry. She and Pam went to the restroom together. They went to the Coke machine together. See, and this is the thing also, like, I've seen the remake so many times that I'm just kind of like, wait, do they go to the restroom? Because I just remember Aaron and what's-her-name, who did not know each other well, going to that scuzzy restroom, which, makes me bring up another point. It's kind of in alignment with you talking about the performances. There's another thing that really hit me when I was watching them reach the gas station for the screening. When they got there, I was like, this is why it's scary to me. It looks like just kind of like an everyday, typical middle of nowhere, but, you know, like a gas station I would definitely stop at. And yeah, the guy who's cleaning the windows, you know, he's got a great big forehead. His eyes look like they're just like
Do you think
black.
he's in on the operation? That's the question I had.
I wondered, because he doesn't have a name either. He's just called Window Washer. Yeah. I wondered, is this the first in the legacy of like completely just easily cast off family members of the Sawyers? Like, I bet you he's a Sawyer.
Show up in like 3D, where there's just like all of a sudden there's like 50 members of the family that just crawled out of the woodwork.
Yeah, because we never see him again, and I'm just kind of like, okay, maybe he was tucked away with the rest of the family members from the opening of Texas Chain Saw 3D. But I wondered, because I thought, like, he's kind of the first one who disappears and nobody ever wonders about him, but he seems like unless he's like been employed by Jim Seadow's character, the cook, the old man, as I'll just call him the old cook from now on. By the old cook for, you know, just to kind of like as a favor to, like, you know, his mother, who might be perfectly, you know, respectable and, you know, not, you know, in league with the Sawyers or anything like that, because I don't think they really roll that way. So anyway, the whole point is like, yeah, so the window washer looks a little, sketchy, but he looks totally harmless. He just looks, like a guy who came out, a little different.
That's what they said about Dahmer.
That's what they said about Oswald Cobblepot. But no, he
Sorry, I had to
in
get my
Batman
Scream
Returns.
2 line in there.
I know, right? But no, and then but then to see like the old cook like coming over and just like talking to them, like, I mean, he's acting a little suspicious when he doesn't want them to go up like, near the house or anything like that. But I mean, like, well, why? Why does he care? But I mean, would I clock that? Like in a way that's like substantial, where I'm like, we're gonna die. I don't think so. I think I'd just be like, what's his problem? And then I'd go anyway, And there's something about that is scarier to me, the fact that it's a place that I would go, as opposed to the one in the remake, which is, scuzzy and dilapidated, and all the food in the meat counter is like rotted away and got flies buzzing around it and everything like that. And I just kind of thought like, well, that's clearly, these people aren't well. Like, hightail it in a direction you can go, like, or hitchhike. Hitchhike yourself.
The remake it's the multiverse, it's there's it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And some people really love it. I know. And I think that I think that it like it's very well done in terms of like its production value.
Sure.
But we've talked about this before, that like the secret ingredient of the original is just that it's the grindhouse of it all. It's the fact that it looks like the environment is just like it's dilapidated, it's run down, and it feels authentic. It doesn't feel like it was built to capture this feeling with that with that polish over top of everything.
It doesn't feel designed except by the characters where it's supposed to, like,
And speaking of because I want to talk about Sally a bit, because we speaking of the Cherry Picker After Dark, we did the infamous Final Girl ranking way back when, and I don't remember where. I think Sally might have placed very high, and the argument for her was that just like there's not really a character there, but for what she has to endure and get away with, like, I think it goes back to the same, like, the Laurie Strode of H40 or whatever. It's just like this is trauma, actually. Like, this what this girl goes through in Texas Chainsaw is insane. And I was actually watching this. I was thinking a lot about Friday the 13th, because they're very similar in a sense that it's like, it's like you have these people and everything is like seems innocent, and they go off and get killed, and nobody who's still alive knows about it, and they just go off and get killed. And then you come to the end, and I mean, obviously I think that this is a better movie than the original Friday the 13th, but I was just like, all I could think of is like, oh, but you got the Betsy Palmer and the Adrienne King of it all at the end of that, and just like, that's so much more fun. Like, it's so much more campy. Like, I wouldn't say that this is not a fun movie. There's probably parts in it that are fun, but it's like, it's a very harrowing experience. And it's fun when you show it to new people. That's when you have fun. Well, I know that you like to watch people watch movies, which I think is just creepy. But that's just me.
I just their energy reverberates off of me, and I'm like, ooh, they're having fun. Good.
That's fair. But I mean, like, I don't watch this very often because it like gets me very anxious. And even after watching it today, I was just like, fuck. And like, this is me. I've got like 1,000,001 things going on right now, so I unfortunately was watching it like with my phone in my hand and like getting things done. But I was paying a lot of attention to it. Make no mistake. But it was still like, it even through that, like giving it like as much attention as I have, because I've seen this movie 1,000,000 times. I don't need to. But I'm not reviewing it, But it's still like I could still feel it. I could still feel like the anxiety coming over me. That by the time it was done, it was just like, I need some different kind of energy coming in right now, because this is this is affecting me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. Like with Sally, and in terms of like what she goes through, I think there's a case to be made. I don't know. I don't clock it. Like I don't have screen times and data to bring you to back this up. But I'll continue to think about this as I, as we move through films in this, particularly in the slasher genre. But with Final Girls, because I think she's the final girl who probably arguably gets the least amount of rest. And by even rest, I mean like Sally never hides. She does get to like escape into a room where she thinks she's safe, but she's not hiding. Leatherface clearly saw her go in there and knows she's in there, which is why when the old cook leaves the door open, it's so scary, especially the first time you're seeing it, because you're like, what if he just wanders over and just sticks his head in and just, she has to see that face. Like, oh my God, that'd be terrifying. Yeah. But, and what happens anyway is really, really terrifying. But the rest of the time, she doesn't hide, she runs. She just tries to escape. It like most of like what she's doing, and when they incapacitate her and tie her to that chair, then she's just screaming her brains out until she passes out. And once she wakes up and she's at the table for the scene at the dining room, she just immediately launches right back into her screaming and her trauma occurrence in real time. and oh my God, and also just the way it's depicted, because I understand it's not like it's fun to watch her anguish, because even the way they capture it, there's something about the technicolor of her eyes, and seeing even just like the way they zoom in and catch the veins, like the red like veins of the eyeball. Rarely in cinema do you get that close, even in a close-up, to someone's like facial structure. And even just watching her skin glisten with the sweat that is actually her sweat. Nobody's running in and spritzing her with the bottle. Like, there again, that level of authenticity. But the strongest thing I got from her this particular screening also was in a weird way, I don't know if you could call it Jungian or anything like that, but it does seem like her character is all about growing up in a weird way, like growing pains perhaps, because she starts off relatively innocent and carefree and sweet, except for Franklin, but because I get the impression he says, "Come on, Franklin, it's going to be a fun trip." So obviously it was her idea. Yeah. and then she just kind of like, I've had it. I need a little break from you. Fair. But then he's just sitting there anguishing because he doesn't know what to do with his, shiftlessness. And it probably sucks when everybody else can like walk upstairs and you're just sitting there in your chair. But I mean, again, like then he's like going into his own little childhood thing, like banging his elbow against the frame of the door. And
we spend a lot more time with Franklin in the first half of the movie than we do with Sally. Like she really doesn't take over until night falls. Yeah. We also know through dialogue, as I mentioned earlier, that Sally is a Capricorn, which I just thought was a fun little thing that they put in there.
Is she though? Like, do you see Capricorn in her?
Well, you mentioned something about her having to like she really sort of like grows up in this scenario, and I can see that, because Capricorns are very serious people who they're kind of they're much more mature, like not necessarily behaviorally, but mature minded just in terms of life and objectives and whatnot. So I could see that also just being sort of her brother's caretaker, at least in this scenario that we can see. So yeah, I mean, I'll take it. It works for me.
But even like the way she's introduced, like the fact that like she's just kind of there for like fun with her friends and everything like that. But then they find out about the grave digging, and they want to know, like, it was their grandfather, I think, was he dug up. So they decide to go over to the cemetery, and she goes and she asks, like this row of like, fine upstanding Texan men, and one literally kind of like takes her by the elbow and leads her like, I'll show you where it is, little lady. And we see our final girl, who we don't yet know is our final girl, being led somewhere by a man, being told, this is where you go, this is what you do and everything. Whereas, I mean, arguably like her last moment on screen, even though she's being, I believe it's a perceivedly male driver, who's in the truck, who's driving her away, but she is the one kind of in the driver's seat screaming, go, go, go! Like, I mean, no one is like any more in control of like kind of her fate than her at that moment, because of the sheer victory, of the sheer elation, the madness, yes, but also there's this feeling of conquest and owning the conquest in her manic laughter. That it's funny that those two things can be true of like the same person within a 24-hour time frame. You're
driving down that highway road, and you see that. Are you stopping?
Oh, the end?
Yeah.
I mean, if she's covered in blood and she's screaming, I don't know. I don't know if I'm stopping immediately. I do have to say that. But you know what? I would probably, because I always think of David Naughton in American Werewolf in London, like run, 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 run. Oh shit! I don't want to be the person who runs away, and then you go back.
Yeah.
Maybe I would do that. But now that I've seen the movie, I'd probably think of the movie and just be like, oh shit! Somebody needs help. I better try and.
What I think is like hysterical is like the truck driver, like the big truck. Because the last time we see him, he's just running off, and he's like for all we know, he just keeps running well after the credits are rolling, because he's not going back there because Leatherface is doing his little dance. But what really kind of like, I mean, it doesn't irk me, but I always like question like they got into the truck, they closed the door, why didn't he just like start it up? Like, I guess is it just takes too long to start the truck up again once it's
because he could see or hear that the chainsaw was going against the door, and maybe didn't know the integrity of the door would withstand the chainsaw, because it's metal against metal. So what's going to be stronger? I'm sure it never happened to him.
See, before. I would just like foot to the pedal.
You would just keep going and just be like,
no, but I mean in that situation, like where okay, you've let her in, close the door,
okay,
but yeah, if I was driving, like, I don't know, I mean, maybe I would like slow down a little. I'm like, I'm helping you out, this is up to you.
That's kind of what he did.
It's an interesting thing that you say, well, maybe I'll call, because I was also thinking, how a movie like this just wouldn't exist nowadays, because of course cell phones ruining everything in horror movies, or if they are there's always like the contrived like, oh, I'm not getting any bars bullshit.
Don't have a signal.
Because like in this, like, they've run out of gas, so they're clearly in a jam, and they're like just sort of hanging out at this decrepit I don't know if they still own the house or whatever. Like, it doesn't seem like it's very specific as to whether it's just been abandoned or whatever. But they're just kind of stuck there, and they're kind of making the best of the situation until they can figure out their next move. And it's like they're fucked. Like, if like, even if to call some sort of service to come and tow them or whatever, they couldn't do that. They'd have to like go and walk along this highway, find a place, find a payphone. So it's just like everything was so much scarier back then, because you didn't have this luxury that we do now.
Well, I also think people thought about it less. Though I think the scope of the world, again, you talk about our phones and the internet and everything like that. Yeah. I think people just kind of knew less about the goings on, unless it happened. Like, I mean, Ed Gein, who the family, I mean, Tobe Hooper wanted to make a movie about a family of Ed Geins, he was always fond of saying. Yeah. And that's what he and Kim Henkel collaborated on to try and create here. But what I think what made him so memorable, particularly to Plainfield, where he was from, where he was living, was the fact that, like, you know, it was a small town, everybody knew him, and it was the most unimaginable thing in the world. Nobody ever thought that anything like that was even possible. Nobody is in the world of, like, the true crime genre. I don't think true crime was even a genre yet. You know, in like the mid to late 20th century, whereas now I feel like I was actually just having a conversation with a group of friends last night about true crime. They're all women and they all like true crime, and I always want to ask women why, and they were all like, oh, for the ticks. We wanted, you know, we need a checklist of things, behavioral kind of like things we can check off and go like, okay, then you're out. I'm not giving you a chance anymore, because that guy on that documentary who, you know, gutted that woman and then lived in her house and told everybody she was alive, he did what you do, so you're out of my phone. You know, I'm blocking you, and I'm not going to feel bad.
What about the
it.
like the female, like the Black Widow, you know, killers? So like, I mean, the guys, like, because I can't see a scenario where like any man would be like, I listen to true crime podcasts so I can like see like the ticks of like the lady, the female killers, you know.
I wonder if it's because, and I don't know if this is true, but I'll speculate. I wonder if it's because statistically, possibly, maybe there are still more male killers than female
There's
killers.
like I was looking up the percentage a while ago. I think it's like, it might be something where like 9%, 9%. Let me actually, I can find that out really quickly.
Okay, while you're looking, I'll say that's also like why I think in this particular movie there was no female representation among the Sawyer family, because I don't know if Tobe Hooper knew how to kind of make that work. And we had seen in sequels, and we talked about this, there are different iterations, you know, of the Sawyer or the Hewitt family, where they try to find a female who can function in that kind of an environment and even either lead it or certainly support it, you know, like the Saws family. And I'm going to be as much a part of this as all of you, because, you know, I'm family, you know, whatever's motivating her to be there. But in this particular instance, the most feminine influence we get is, you know, Leatherface, you know, the homemaker.
Yeah.
As you know, and also the hostess. Like at that dinner, I think that's there was, oh my God, there was a deleted scene where Gunnar Hansen gets up and moves to the next room, and is just looking at faces for dinner, and has already chosen one, but just kind of like, oh, but should I wear this one instead? Or, you know what, this one has freckles. And then just kind of decides to put the two faces down and keep the face on that he put on originally, and then pick up a powder puff and like a big thing of powder and just kind of work it and then smack it just onto the face, which is why the face almost looks, you know, like kabuki or something. At some point in the dinner, that's what Leatherface got up and was supposed to go do.
8.6%.
Okay.
And yes, and that makes me wonder, like, is it just like, is that the percentage of like known, like discovered? Because maybe that just means that the women are better at getting away with it.
I don't know. I feel like the answer is in Mindhunter somewhere. We should cover that at some point. But
Mindhunter, is it like the television show?
Yeah, the Netflix show. Okay. Yeah, they talk about serial killers.
You know,
they talk about those statistics.
You know, I don't have Netflix.
Well, maybe at one point you'll get it.
I don't.
You don't. Okay.
No.
But anyway, back to the task at hand.
Yeah.
I feel like we were talking about so many things. Okay, so, but that, I think, for me, like another thing that jumped out, because I remember talking about in our previous discussion the dehumanization theme, which actually I felt got built on when I watched it this time, because I talked about the dehumanization in terms of, you know, industry being taken over by machines. Like the Hitchhiker talks about it when he talks about, gun's no good. You know, it puts people out of jobs, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And how he used to work at the slaughterhouse, and he used to use a sledgehammer, to kill the cows, and they died better that way, is what he said. And subsequently, there's been this discussion that, like, Tobe Hooper was, whether knowingly or unknowingly, like, creating like some kind of framework for America and the direction that it was taking as, humans were becoming more and more obsolete, particularly in the workforce. But the more I watched the movie, the more I was like, I'm also getting a dehumanization in terms of, like, just the way they, and maybe this is just, the way the social climate is right now for perceivedly and on the internet for me, but just the way people dehumanize each other, the fact that the Sawyer family is capable of a loyalty to each other, there's a tribalism there, and there's also this ability to see human beings as, basically livestock. It's acceptable for us to treat our livestock in a particular way, and for them to live a particular quality of life until we're ready to kill them and eat them, wear them, whether it's, leather, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, even that name for Leatherface is applicable because people wear cow leather all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just made me think about, like, just our inability to kind of, like, connect with each other, like, as people, and what happens when that level of isolation, of one's tribe allows that no one else is human except for the people who are in my family, and everybody outside of that is just an object to be manipulated and consumed, basically.
I mean, we still see that. We see it on the internet.
100%.
It's making me think of the line in Halloween 2, when Dr. Loomis is like, "It's awake." One of their tribe was butchered.
Yes,
whatever the line is.
I can't wait to cover that one.
Oh my gosh! Wow, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Another question: when Jerry comes into the house and opens the freezer, and Pam's like starts convulsing and like jumps out. Like, is she dead? Like, what is that? What's going on? Is that just some sort of, like, after death thing? Like in Final Destination when, like...
I think she's going through her own version of what Kirk went through. Because remember when Kirk took the hammer... Oh, God, it's so chilling. And he falls down and the legs are just...
Yeah.
The pounding from inside the freezer sounds really, really similar to, like, what his legs sounded like when they were, kind of jolting against the floor and everything like that. So I think it's just, like, death convulsions. Like, she's, like, the moment we see her, I believe, is the last moment, like kind of like the last breath that she has, like she's still trying maybe to get out but can't function because of whatever he did to her, and then she just kind of with the lovely camera grind. That's my fave. Oh my God.
No, I think I mean, talking about the, I guess, like the visceral feeling of this movie. Because I listened to a commentary a while ago. Like, this was like back when, like, it was first on DVD, because I had like one of the, like, the shitty, like, first ever release of the movie on DVD, and I believe it had a commentary. And they were just talking about how, like, the effectiveness of, like, her having this, like, backless top, because she ends up getting, like, put on the meat hook with her back exposed like that. So it's kind of like you're already seeing it, because you don't actually see it, like, the contact. And it's just sort of implied, but you have that image. And one of my favorite shots of the movie is when she gets up off of the bench and the camera glides under the bench and it just sort of follows behind her. And I think, like, this is like this low angle looking up, and you're talking about the blue sky, and we're just seeing, like, her back from behind. And then it gets to close to the porch, and then the camera stops. And she continues walking up, and I just think it's such a good shot, because it's like we're going with her, and it's almost like no, we're not going any further. Don't do it.
I've also heard it described by members of the crew who share your affinity for that shot.
Yeah.
They also love the fact that it looks as though the house is engulfing her. Like, it's growing while she's remaining the same size, like, kind of stationary in the frame, even though because the camera and her are moving in unison.
Yeah.
You talked about it making you think of Friday the 13th. What it made me think of, actually, I thought about our Jaws discussion. Just to touch back on, you were mentioning Sally, and I wanted to make sure this gets addressed. Because I agree. I was watching, again, even though I'm thinking, oh, Jungian and this and that, and I love Marilyn Burns' work on it, because it's still, even though there's not really strong, sharp, defining characteristics of Sally, it's really just kind of like, she seems like a nice girl. Oh, that poor girl. You know, it's basically the depth of like insight we get to her. And it's profound, but but I don't know a lot of details about her, except that she used to like to dream about the zebras in her childhood bedroom, you know. But she but she made me think about Brody, Chief Brody in Jaws, because I remember when we talked about him, he was kind of like, you know, a quote unquote like everyman character, and I think that it came out the year after this, right, 1975.
Yeah.
And it was still, you know, especially in American cinema, we were still kind of like following protagonists that were largely supposed to be avatars for us, that we could kind of like reflect ourselves onto as an audience member. So they can't have really sharp defining characteristics. Whereas, as you know, cinema evolved, we started requiring that of our characters, because it's like, well, who are they? Like, I need to know who they are and why they're compelled to do this, because I require more insight just to compel me to move forward. Otherwise, they're just a bland character.
But where did it fall off? Because I mean, if you go back to like, you know, the early days of like, you know, the 30s and the 40s, like any movie that Bette Davis was in, like she would never take a role where, you know, a character would just be an avatar like that. Like she was played characters. Like these were people that you knew. And I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Like Brody, you know, we talked about that, but I think the difference is like with Brody in Jaws is that, you know, he had a much more defined, like we knew who he was. We saw like sort of what was going on, and he had a conflict in terms of like what he was trying to accomplish or avoid throughout the movie. And like with Sally, she's just there. And then when this like primal instinct to survive kicks in, she goes for it. So we don't really get that. Like it's very different from the character in Jaws in that sense. But other than that, I can see what you're talking about. But the line that was just making me laugh a little, because I mentioned it to you before we started recording, is when she's sitting there with Franklin, like when Jerry goes off and she's like, "Can I come?" And he's like, "No," and she's kind of like, "Ugh." And remember, she's like, "I can't find it." But then she sits down and she's just sort of like, "Well, this is my current situation, I guess." And he, you know, Franklin's annoying her, and he's just asked about the Saturn retrograde or whatever, and it's like, "You don't believe in all that?" And she's like, "I don't know. I guess everything's supposed to mean something, I guess," or whatever the line is, which I just love, because she's just like, you know. Because she's not there isn't any final girl energy there throughout the movie until the end, until it's just I think the moment where like when night falls and the horn is honking and all that, and she's just getting frustrated, like that frustration, that's where it starts coming out, and that's where it's like, okay, this is our survivor here.
Right. And that leads me to two questions that I know I wanted to ask you. The first of which is, I feel like a lot of people have kind of like a barometer when they're watching, particularly a horror movie where people are treading where they shouldn't be, and then there's kind of like the nope, you know, moment, the I'm going to opt out, nope, I'm not with you anymore, you're stupid and you're going to die and you deserve it. Kind of thing. Or you're asking for it, basically, you know, now, basically. Is there a cutoff moment for you where you're watching whether it's in the interaction with the characters as they're moving like about the house, from house to house, or even to the gas station? Like, is there a point where you're watching where you're just kind of like, I know I wouldn't do that? Did anything stand out to you like that?
Yes. The very beginning of the movie, I would not let that guy in the van at all.
Okay.
I would not. Like, and who was the one that was most opposed to? Was it Pam? She had
Pam
she had a very
was the
like
most-
vocal,
She
she's
had a
like,
face too. She
he
made
looks
like a
weird.
Yeah,
is what she
yeah.
said. But then everyone else was like, we can't leave him out there in that heat. You can't stay out
Right.
there in that heat. Like, what's her name?
He'll be out. No, if Sandy would have been there,
Sandy.
Sandy the waitress from Friday the 13th one. If Sandy the waitress had been there, she'd be like, he'll be all right if he knows enough to come in from the heat.
Let's just like cross-pollinate these franchises now.
We've been doing it
I
anyway,
know,
so why
but
not?
yeah, but they were like concerned with him. I think like it seemed like Pam and maybe Franklin was just a bit off. So maybe if they voted on it, they were outnumbered because it just kind of cuts and then like he's in the van with them all of a sudden. They're all like huddled at the front and the line
so
like,
good.
well, I think we just picked up Dracula. Yeah.
And oh my god. Okay, wait. So before I ask my next question, I just have to say, because we're talking about the hitchhiker, Edwin Neal plays the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. And this is another thing. Like these actors all, especially the family, the Sawyer family, like took this really, really seriously. And Edwin Neal personalized in his audition. He talked about this in the Texas Chainsaw Family Portrait Revisited, which is available on Blu-ray, and actually you can stream it on Tubi too. There's 2 documentaries of Texas Chainsaw you can stream off Tubi for sure.
Tubi is not paying us, folks.
Yeah, right. And they should be, but just watch it. Just give these projects more money, and they'll just keep putting good shit, like on that platform. It's in our best interest. Anyway, Edwin Neal said in an interview that I used to watch quite often. I remember him talking about he read the script and he saw the character of the hitchhiker and thought, "Oh, this is my nephew. I have a brain damaged nephew who talks exactly in this cadence." And basically kind of like in this, like, hey, look at this, kind of like energy. So he knew exactly what to do. He just pretended to be his nephew in the audition. And they were like, oh my gosh, great. You got the part, kid. And he, like,
You're going to Hollywood.
Yeah. Anytime he would do an impression of Toby Hooper, it was always like this. So again, big cigar, you're going places, kid. You're gonna go, you're gonna make it. You're gonna be a star. But just John Carpenter adjacent. Anyway, my John Carpenter.
Your version of John Carpenter. The real John
he,
Carpenter is just kind of like, well, I didn't like that movie at all. That was bullshit.
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't like Jaws. I thought it was a piece of shit.
But anyway, he was talking about like the audition and then playing it and everything like that. He went through so many pains, but I feel like I love that it was based on a nephew, because I feel like I get real. It straddles little boy energy, like like grubby, dirty little boy, and puppy. I get like German Shepherd kind of. He's always panting, and he's always like, even this grin, you can see like his canines. He just kind of, he always looks like a dog to me.
Look what I can do.
And like, it just exactly. Stuart.
That would be I guess that would be the old man cook.
Oh my god.
Look what your brother did to the door. Look what he did.
If you
Mad
don't know what we're
TV,
doing,
Mad TV for anyone.
Mad TV.
Yeah.
Just look up Stuart, you'll get it.
Stuart, Mad TV. STUART.
Yeah. It's a
And
hoot. You
mom,
won't
yeah,
be sorry.
they're so good, yeah.
And his
it's
mom.
it's the guy from Halloween Kills, the Little John. Yeah.
Little John. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so anyway,
you sent me that video. Sorry, we had to talk about it, which was like this whole stand-up act that he did, where he's recalling the story of the time that he met, because he didn't actually meet her in person, but they had like a very intense series of phone calls with Faye Dunaway.
Yes. To Michael McDonald and Faye Dunaway.
Yeah, to coach her on.
It's amazing.
Coach her on doing an audition for a comedy. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Yeah.
He's so remarkable. But but we're not talking about him. We're talking.
Hey, we tangent here.
Yes, we do.
And he's a horror staple. He was in Leprechaun 2 as well.
which he addresses in the stand-up
He
bit
does,
where
yeah.
he talks about Faye Dunaway. But anyway, okay. But so, but I just really gravitate towards that energy of Edwin Neal's in that particular moment, because there is this odd kind of like need to please, and everything I'm talking about with tribalism, like you can see he just doesn't fit, you know, like in that bus. And it really, my heart goes out to him because he doesn't know any better. And I think that's another thing that just lends itself to the fear for me, is the fact that both Leatherface and the hitchhiker, I think, could have been okay if they just would have been, if they just could have gotten out of that kind of an environment and maybe in a facility, or even in like, you know, an adoptive home where they could have been like treated with compassion and patience, and they could have learned maybe not as adults, but you know, they've been living this life for quite some time. But as children, I don't feel like, you know, they're that bad. But the
well, that reminds me
so
of do you remember the movie Mama?
Yes.
Yeah, because like the girls disappear and then they find them 5 years later and they're just sort of like scavengers in the forest, and then they take them back and try to acclimate them to normal life with Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
As like an emo rocker or whatever she was.
I have to revisit that movie. I haven't seen that ever since the theater, and that's like, isn't that like 10 years?
2012, yeah, the theater.
Okay, or so. Yeah, over a decade. Okay, interesting. But so the other question I wanted to ask you, though, now that attention has been paid to Edwin Neal, I want to ask you in terms of, there was a point where I was watching Sally's will to survive in this movie that was on display, and that kept going. And the part that always breaks my heart is when she's at the dining table and she's trying to appeal to the old cook, because she recognizes him as somewhat of an authority over his brothers, and possibly like the most tethered, like in a weird way. I think he's also probably the sickest for that very reason. But she says, "I'll do anything you want," and then she just starts crying because she knows exactly what she's saying to him, and so do I. And then it's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then it just goes into the, and we just go on a spiral of like, you know, another like, a cornucopia of, you know, shots of mania. But and it's incredible. But I was watching this going like, I think at a certain point I would have been like, could you please just get it over with? Just kill me. Just kill me, so I don't have to. Or I would have found a way to provoke them to kill me, because I know if they know I want it, they won't do it. But if I can get them angry enough, maybe out of spite, they'll just. I don't know if I would have had the strength, and that's where I think also the strength comes in for her as a final girl. Like, who wants to survive that? And I just wondered, would you have wanted to like get out of there and live no matter what, and just deal with the trauma afterwards?
I feel like I already addressed that earlier, but we can go over
What'd
it
you
again.
say?
Because I said, like, you know, if I was in that situation, I feel like I would just be like, kill me now. Just get it over with. But there's, you know, like, it almost seems like the moment, like, before she is able to get free, because they've got her over that bucket, and Grandpa, they're trying to, you know, prop the hammer and like, hit her, Grandpa, hit her, and he gets her once, like, you know, which it just, because it fell out of his hand or whatever, but at that point it's just like, that's the moment, because it's just like, just hurry up or whatever, like, just because he's missing it every time, it's falling down, she can hear it, it's like, it's just drawing that moment out for longer and longer, so that probably, if there was any moment, it would probably be like, here, that was just like, come on, just I want the suffering to end, but you know, fortunately for her, she's able to get free, and for the second time jump through a window of this house, which is crazy, and it doesn't feel repetitive to have happened twice, but
Well, because once it's on the second floor,
Yeah.
out the back of the house.
Well, that's why she's limping after.
Oh,
and also,
God.
that's another great shot too. When that wide, when she's hobbling away and they're chasing after her and going out to the main road. Incredible.
Yeah. And oh my God, and the again, the ingenuity on the part of the actors, like Edwin Neal, I believe it was scripted that he was just supposed to kind of like run after her and catch her in the road, and I guess pull her down or throw her out of the road, like back to the house or something. And that's when, just the moment he throws her out of the road is when he's supposed to get hit by the truck. But he was supposed to like just run after her and catch her. And he said, well, what if I don't catch her? Because like she can't run very fast, so I don't want to fake it looking like, I can't outrun her. So how about if I can outrun her and I can even keep up with her, and I just slash at her back with the knife that I showed in the beginning. There's a lot of seeds planted earlier that pay off later, and that's one of them, his knife.
Well, there's definitely the moment where she's kind of trying to get on the pickup truck at the end. Yeah. You can tell that he's like she's taken so long to do it, and Gunnar Hansen is like, okay, I guess I'll just kind of like hold back for a second here.
Yeah, I know. But he got a leg injury too.
He did, yeah, that's true. And fresh. But the hitchhiker getting run over, like, actually, speaking of Michael McDonald, because I just think back to the Austin Powers of like, stop, because there was plenty of fucking time for him to just move out of the way.
But
and he was like on the edge, like there. It's not like he was right in front of it, like smack right on it. So I don't know. That part seems a little silly to me. I'll just say that.
None of it feels silly to me.
I
know.
No.
What was I going to say? Oh, because also Gunnar Hansen, because he deserves to be talked about as well. Mm-hmm. I love Gunnar Hansen so much. He's one of those people who, anytime I see an interview with him, now it's all like posthumous experience. I never got to meet him before he passed away, and I'm but even though I never met him, I miss him. Like it was nice knowing that there was a force. Like there's something about like wildly intelligent, insightful, sensitive men who are capable of like going on screen and like finding like whatever kind of, I don't know if it's brutality or if it's monstrosity or if it's just like a kind of like beyond the populace, like beyond no longer socially acceptable norms that they practice on a daily basis, that if they can make me believe that, and whether they're evil or whether they're just a victim of circumstance or somewhere both, that's oh my God, sign me up. That's my wheelhouse. And I loved watching him talk about this because he was a writer, and I still haven't read any of his books. I need to really
what else has
make that change.
Has he been in anything else that we would know?
He wasn't a big time actor. Like he did do a few things, like smaller horror films, I know, because he was Leatherface. He's the OG Leatherface. Yeah. But it wasn't ever something that he really, pursued. I mean, because he was a young actor when he did this, but I always got the impression that, like, he did it because, like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. That sounds fun. Like, it sounded like his heart, particularly, like, in the later years, was in his writing. Mm-hmm. And because also there was a point, and I believe he made peace with this later, but there was a point in the Texas Chainsaw Family Portrait where he, at that point, I think it had been over 10 years, probably 15 years or so, and he said, it's unfortunate, I think, that it'll probably say Gunnar Hansen, he was Leatherface on my tombstone. I think he developed more of a sense of humor about it as he grew older, and realized, like how kind of vital he was to us and how much we kind of revere him, because again, he's playing that victimhood, and he even did the research, same like Edwin Neal with his nephew. He went to the trouble of going to a facility where people who have, shall we say, like mental disabilities or mental disorders, or are just kind of like on another frequency, were, because he perceived a particular kind of like mental, shall we say, I don't know, lack of acuity, is that the term? I'm trying not to say an offensive term, but just like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I don't.
The way he put it, I won't say the term because I always get weird about like terms like this, and I don't want to offend anybody who might, like have someone in their family or, like care, about someone like that. So I'll just say he called it a school for schmatarded persons. That's all I should probably have to say. But he just kind of like observed these people who he thought were what Leatherface was. And he just kind of observed like their physicality, a lot of them. And just like the way they kind of like interacted with people who were in charge. The way they were really, really docile. And the way they were really, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say submissive. But just, trying to comply, trying to please. Again, just like the hitchhiker, trying to please. And you get it. I feel like I get it when the old cook comes home. And he's dressed in his domestic garb and just assuring the old cook over and over again, like, no, I got them all. Like not even saying all that. It's just, just like little old lady speak from Leatherface's point of view. And just watching him just kind of, reassure him, like, I got this. And then you see the old cook reaching for some reason to abuse his brother, just going like, you wrecked the door, and then just starts wailing on him again anyway. Like, I'm just kind of like, you sick fuck. I feel like know better.
When did he pass?
Here, I can tell you the exact year. I don't have it available like at my.
Well, because he was in Texas Chain Saw 3D.
In 2013. He died November 7th, 2015. He was 68 years old.
Okay.
And he was living in Maine. Living in Maine.
When did Marilyn Burns pass? Because she was also in that too.
Right. Hadn't she already passed by the time it hit theaters? I feel like that. Or maybe not. August 5th, 2014.
I don't think I've ever seen an interview with her.
Oh, you got to check out you might have it on your special features then. Because there is one. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Talk about a sweet person. Yeah. You get nothing but like, just like great vibes from her. And she doesn't hold back, talking about like the truth of like what hell it was, to go through that and everything like that. And I mean, not just like on camera, like literally when she's tied, she was talking about when she's tied to the chair, with the hands, and Grandpa's going at her. At one point, they were supposed to push her over, and they did, and she fell off the chair. Or no, didn't fall off the chair, but she fell with the chair, and was just kind of like on her side, still tied and still gagged with some dirty rag that she knew. She said, they'd said, we need a rag. Somebody get a rag. And someone went and didn't get a clean rag. It was, who knows where it was, who knows what it had seen. She said it smelled terrible, so it wasn't good. They probably used it to help create that dinner scene, that dinner table. So they just tied it around her and put it in her mouth and everything like that. They're like, oh, it looks great. It looks horrible. It looks dirty. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, I don't even know what's in my mouth right now. And then she fell over. And she can't speak, and she can't get her hands free or her feet, and she's laying there, and they're talking about the shot because they yelled cut, and the camera person confirmed she was out of the shot. We need to do it again. And then they start talking about, well, okay, but so should we move the camera or should we just station her different? And they go on talking. She's still on her side, on the floor, tied up with this dirty rag in her mouth. No one is tending to her. No one's making sure she's okay.
What's on that rag?
Yeah, right. And then finally they repositioned her. They realized, because she's like, oh, she made a noise, and they're like, oh, let's get her back up. But they didn't untie her. They just kept her like that as long as they shot.
Sounds like Friday the 13th Part 2 filming conditions. That reminds me of a story which might be a little funny, but I don't think any of the people involved listen to this or would be. So. And I've held on to it for, like, I've told very few people, but it was just so gross. So when I used to work at this nightclub, I tended the bar. I was the bartender downstairs in the lounge, and there would be drag shows, we'll say, every Saturday, or was it Friday? I don't remember. But the host of the shows, this drag queen, would come up to the bar, and they got like special privileges or like a tab of like, they were able to get like so many drinks. And I had my bar back, or BA, whatever you want to call them. And part of his job, because the washrooms were down there, is he had to like tend to those. So he had his bar rag, which was like behind the bar, and then there was the bathroom rag, which was like not exactly behind the bar, but it was like over by where like this bus tub was, where like we threw the bottles. Anyway, this drag queen comes over, and she's gets a shot or whatever, and does it really quick, gets it all over her face, all over her mouth. Okay. And then she's like, oh, quick, I need a rag. And I was like turning around, I was going to go grab one, but she went ahead and she grabbed this one that was, who knows what the fuck was on it, like piss, puke, and just starts dabbing her chin, dabbing it up. And I didn't say anything. I was just like, because it was too late. And and she's like, did I get it? I'm like, yep.
You sure did. I don't know what it is, but you got it.
You got it. And I was just like, oh, yeah. Kind of funny. Kind of funny, kind of gross, but
really gross.
It was out of what's the line that John Malkovich says in Dangerous Liaisons?
Oh.
To Michelle Pfeiffer. It was not in my control, something like that.
It was beyond my control.
It was beyond my control.
When he's being his cruelest.
Yeah, it was beyond my control. It literally was. It happened before I could do anything about it.
I know. But, and then you're just the messenger, and you're going to get shot. So that's terrible.
Absolutely.
But so imagine like however long, I forget how long it took them to shoot this. But imagine, like, that's basically...
Good for her for being such a trooper about that, and just...
Yeah, she was. Like, she never walked. She never threatened to walk. She stayed with it. And I again, she's another one who, like, in retrospect, when she talked about it, she wouldn't, ever sugarcoat what she went through, but she'd always kind of, like, attribute it to, like, but you know what? I look back and I see the film, and I see how the effect it still has on people. And I'm really, really, proud to be a part of it. Oh, and that was another thing I loved about her, because they were talking about titles, alternate titles for this, because it was originally going to be called Head Cheese, and there was another one, something like the Leatherface stalks his prey, or something like that. Like, I mean, it's just like really, really bad titles, one after the other. And
I'm surprised it wasn't called Capricorn.
But Leatherface chases Capricorn. That's what it was called. But
just because like last week's movie was Aquarius.
Right. Yes, the alternate title. But there was something with Toby Hooper was thinking. Well, I was thinking about calling it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I can't remember who he bounced it off of. But it was a member of the crew, and then one of the other producers, and he was who wasn't Kim Henkel, and whoever it was just said like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're not calling it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No one's gonna go see it. My girlfriend won't see something called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I won't go see it. And then they immediately cut in one of these documentaries to Marilyn Burns going like, oh, I would have seen a movie called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Are you crazy? And I'm like, oh, yeah. You're one of us. I adore her.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's amazing.
Yeah, and just so like this era of time, like because this, we talked about Friday the 13th, and this came out 6 years before that, and it just, I'm just trying to like relate that to like now, and just like, or even like the movies that were like coming out when I was 20 or whatever. Just like, oh, it would have been like so special to just be around at that time, and just like the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, and then we got like Halloween and Friday the 13th. It just seemed like all these cool titles coming out that everyone, all the Christian groups were against at the time.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, The Exorcist. Jaws. How did people feel about Jaws? Jaws was very family friendly. Nobody, there weren't any groups that were.
Oh, there was no. As far as I know, there were no like protests or anything like that. Because what are you going to do? Like, we're against shark violence. It's like, yeah, everybody is. That's the whole point of the movie. Yeah. But no, I think people got it, and I think a lot of children.
That's probably why it was so successful, because it's just everyone's like, yeah, that's safe.
Yeah,
you'll be okay.
Also, like, if I want to stay away from that, I know what I do. I don't go to the beach. Like, it's easy. Whereas, I guess don't go to Texas. But I mean, okay, the first time I ever saw the movie, I was a teenager, and then I remember I fell down the rabbit hole watching all the sequels when I was doing a play up north. I talked about it in the last pod, so I won't linger on it. But I do remember watching all the movies that were available at the time. The beginning hadn't come out yet, because the remake had just been released. And I remember, and I even saw the Texas Chainsaw Family Portrait for the first time there on a VHS at their Blockbuster in this town I was doing the play in. And it was in a place called Sonora, which is surrounded by hills, and they didn't have anything. And I just remember driving at one point, had my car with me, and at one point at night, I just kind of wanted to freak myself out a little bit. And I thought, you know what? I know the route I came here, but there are other roads leading out. I just want to see, like, what's, the rural thing going on. So I started driving. And the roads got really windy and really hilly, and I had to kind of slow down. But I also was, I don't know, I'm a freak. I started kind of wanting to scare myself, so I'd speed a little bit just to see. And I didn't see a sharp turn coming, and I had to turn my wheel real fast to avoid, like kind of spiraling out, and, God knows where I would have landed with my car. And there was a stretch. There was like this dirt, and I just kind of went into the dirt with my car. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I look, and there's this huge tree hanging over the dirt, and it's nighttime. And I'm like, but I see a light in the distance, and I don't get out of my car, but I kind of like lean forward, and I think I put my high beams on, and I see there's a fence, and there's like a barn, and then there's like a little house, and the light that I see is like, a little, it's not even a porch light, but just kind of like a light on the outside of the house. I'm just looking at it, and all I could think was, there's somebody could do something to me, and I could get rid of it. And this remote thing too, that's the thing that gets me too. Like, that fact that all you have to do is kind of go outside off the beaten path into like the middle of nowhere. First, somebody has to realize you're gone. Then they have to find someone who knows where you went and what happened to your car. And we've seen from all the cars that are under, like, basically, like, I don't know if it's a tarp, but whatever you call it, like that netting or whatever that's over all those cars. This is not the first time that the Sawyer family has ever done this. This isn't even like the 10th or 20th time. And I think that's the thing that scares me most about that kind of behavior, is that, like, it could be going on and you wouldn't even know it. And if it started to happen to you, who would know and when? That's even scarier to me than who will survive and what will be left of them, which was the tagline for the movie. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like this, because I feel like there's more violence in an urban area. Like, you're probably more likely to get killed in a more densely populated place, because there's more crazy in a place like that. But I understand what you're saying. Like, in a rural place, it's almost like that's where the crazy can go and hide, because nobody's there to look, and nobody's looking for you either. So, you know, if you did disappear,
a lack of regulation. Like, I mean, because that's another thing. I guess if something happened, and I'm not saying something bad couldn't happen to me in an urban place. I know that for a fact, but just kind of the knowledge that, like, if I find, you know, like a window, or if I find a way to crash through a wall, the sidewalk's right there. You know, like, and all I have to do is like run 10 feet and I'll bump into somebody and be like, help me!
All you have to do is just scream. That was the issue. That was the fucking issue we had with Halloween Resurrection, because it's like, you're in a neighborhood. This house might be derelict, but there's neighbors. There's people, like, just get the fuck out of there. I wonder how, I mean, do like a Texas Chain Saw Massacre in Dallas or something, like put it in a big city. It's still Texas.
I mean,
see how that goes.
I mean, they can't all interact. Like the hitchhiker, I guess, does.
That would be the Jason Takes Manhattan equivalent for Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Leatherface takes Dallas.
That would be something, especially Dallas as it stands now. But because
why? What's going on with Dallas?
No, it's just quite built up, and I hear that it's, you know, there's like, you know, things changing. I don't want to get into it because
remember the TV
politics.
show
Dallas?
Yeah,
I didn't watch.
No,
I never watched Dallas.
Like there was a reboot of it. Well, it was like a continuation, which was actually kind of entertaining. I enjoyed it. It had Jordana Brewster in it, who's also in Texas New Beginning. And I started to, like, roommate at the time, we started to watch like the original. I think we got through the first 2 seasons, but I couldn't. It's dated. Like, you have to really be committed to it.
Yeah.
It's like Melrose Place before Melrose Place.
I think, just to get back to Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Well, your final thought.
Final thought. Yeah. I think the thing that, you know how I like to be sent home happy, as it were?
Yeah.
The fact that, like, the last 2 shots we get are just art. Like, literally, they feel like just kind of animated portraits that have lived on in GIF form. They've been immortalized. They've been animated, you know, and recreated by people. But, and are both in their own way iconic. It's just that shot of Marilyn Burns, like, screaming in the bed of that truck, and then Leatherface swinging that chainsaw while the beams of, you know, the sunrise are reflecting into the...
Is it a sunrise or is it a sunset? Because it looks like a sunset to me.
Oh,
it's like the end of Scream when that's supposed to be the sunrise, but it's actually the sun going down.
The thing is, like, I know what you mean. Like, I've noticed in quite a few other films, like, when they try to shoot, like, you know, morning, and it's so obviously a sunset because they're just haloed in, you know, the magic hour, that glow, which it works for daylight too. But there's something about, it's a little more orange, or feels a little more orange when it's a sunset. And I'm just kind of like, there's no way that's a sunrise. The sun's going down. It's getting dark.
I mean, it looks gorgeous, and I love that's sort of orange to it anyway. So maybe it was intentional. It could have been
both. Yeah. It could have been both too, because I feel I get distinct, and maybe it's just shot through a filter or something. I don't know, but I get distinct morning vibes when she crashes out of the window and is there.
Absolutely.
Everything's kind of blue. Yeah. There's like a blue crispness in the air, but by the time Leatherface is swinging the thing, I don't know, I get sunrise from it. But the point is, I watch it and it just kind of makes me feel like I didn't just watch, and I don't have a problem with this kind of film, but I didn't just watch like a kind of destructo film, you know, where I'm just kind of like watching chaos and, you know, like blood splatter and, you know, gore and everything, because there's not even gore in this movie, but the effects that they use are all effective. Like, even like when Leatherface cuts his leg, I know that it's now like a chicken breast with a blood pack under it, but when it cuts in, it just looks like meat, and everything looks like meat. So it's like, oh god, it's so good. But the last two shots are so, I don't know, so exquisitely put together that and captured and acted and all of it, that I don't know, it always makes me feel like I just watched art. I just watched. It begins with art, with, this installation from the hitchhiker of the old corpse with his legs wrapped around another old corpse or whatever. And it ends with art, with these, tableaus of, our heroine and our villain.
Yeah.
Question
and that's
mark?
also the beginning with the corpses. It's kind of like goes back to that childlike behavior of the hitchhiker, of just like, playing with his toys and kind of posing them in certain ways.
Yeah.
I guess and this isn't my takeaway or anything. I guess my final thought, because you made me think about it earlier when we were talking about like the fact that there's no cell phones, and people didn't really think about that because it wasn't really in the forefront of what was going on at the time technologically. So maybe in 50 years from now, when teleportation exists, they'll look back at the movies of today and just be like, well, why didn't they just teleport? Things are so much easier now. Just teleport out of there. And that's my ridiculous final thought for this particular episode.
Hello, future viewers and
future horror movies ruined by teleportation. Although they'll be like, oh, but they were using it in Jason movies way before then.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that is a good point to move along. So let's get to the cherry picker.
It's not like we killed him. On purpose.
So, cherry on top.
Oh my god.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, this one's
Well,
hard.
I can tell you who it isn't going to be. Well, maybe that'll reveal
Don't do that then.
Yeah.
Well, who are your contenders? I mean, obviously there's Sally Hardesty and there's Leatherface.
I'd say that those are the top two for me
Yeah.
at the moment. Yeah.
Who's tipping the scale for you? Is one tipping the scale for you?
I would go for Sally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Sally.
There was another, while we're talking about Sally, because,
Yeah.
there was another moment that jumped out at me. I was just kind of like, the progression of everything that opened, it's a lot of stuff that you would avert your eyes to, or just, kind of turn your nose up, and if it came up in conversation, like, like grave digging and the news reports that are playing about like the murders and the violence while the sunspots are, like exploding in the opening credits, and then even the dead armadillo in the beginning. Like, it's just one distasteful thing after another. And I just love that at one point when Sally's showing off her room to Jerry, and she talks about, my grandmother died. And he's just kind of like, oh, really? What happened? And she's like, what happened to my grandmother? He's like, she died. Yeah. And they both just start laughing like idiots. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, we're still keeping that like uncomfortable thing. Like, I'm not going to talk about my grandmother's death with you, you freak. And whereas, then like at the end of the movie, he's just kind of like, everybody's going to know what happened to me. Anyway.
People are going to know what went on here.
Yes, attention will be paid, and it will be paid to Sally Hardesty. There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also another thing, just production wise, her wardrobe, because it's very luminescent in the night. Like
pants.
It's just the white pants, this sort of like lavender-ish.
Yeah.
Like it's just the moonlight is just like beaming on it, like making her bright. So just like really really good production choices in this.
There were even the choices they made. They decided to opt out of at one point. They were thinking because Marilyn Burns had done some flirtatious adult cinema prior to this, And she'd been naked on film before, so they were like, "Oh, she wouldn't have a problem if we got her top off. Can we get her top off?" And Toby's like, "No, that's not what we don't want people thinking about that during the movie. You know, you can see she's fine." And it's like, and I'm glad that he made that call.
What are the names of these movies?
I don't remember, and I don't want to. Okay. I don't want people looking for them. If you want to look for them. She made them, and she didn't have any shame about them. But I'm not going to advertise, and I can't remember either. So convenient.
Yeah. All right. Well, last week we asked you who deserves to die the most in StageFright, aka Aquarius, aka Deliria, aka Bloody Bird. I believe Deliria is like the official Italian title.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah, it sounds like Suspiria, but Deliria. I nominated Ferrari. You nominated Alicia, the final girl of the piece. And across Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube, we haven't had a lot of time since posting these, so scores are a little bit lower, but 145 for Ferrari versus 63 for Alicia.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I literally threw it up yesterday because we're recording this early. But
schedules are yeah.
and you know, this is a movie that not a lot of people have seen, so there's fewer comments as well. But Silent Saturn says, did Eddie watch some cut for TV version? How can he say Alicia didn't fight anyone when she has that elaborate battle scene with the killer at the end and basically kills him twice by pushing him off the ledge and setting him on fire? She deserved to survive because she was the only one perceptive enough to know what's going on and repeatedly tries to warn the others, who ignore her. She was... This is not how Daniel sounds. I'm just reading it. She was also the most sensible of all the female cast, who were mostly hysterical or bitches, or both. Not saying she was great, but she did what a final girl ought to do. It's not like she's Anne from Tenebrae. Voting for Ferrari because... voting for Ferrari, but really it should have been Peter or the, even by horror movie standards, utterly useless cops. Well, we forgot about them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't even interesting enough to remember. And Peter... Yeah. Well, we all know what happened with him. We made him our cherry on top, didn't we?
Yeah, Peter.
He's too crucial to the movie.
He is. He is the movie.
Experience. Yeah. Yes, he is the moment.
Amethyst Frost, and this is the final comment. Saw this one a few months ago because Zach posted a picture of Aquarius on his social media, and I had no idea there was a horror movie named after my sign. I still don't really know how or why StageFright became Aquarius, but I'm glad that title got me to watch nonetheless. I vote for Ferrari because while Allie wasn't a great final girl, I at least remember her part of the movie, especially once that key falls to the ground. I forgot which one Ferrari was and if he even died or not until I Googled it. I thought he was one of the bumbling rent-a-cops at first. Having their banh mi sandwich.
Yes, banh mi sandwich.
A peanut butter banh mi sandwich.
Yeah. And they didn't get it on their penis.
Yeah, I forgot about the peanut butter
Would
obsession
you rather
in that movie. Would you rather have your peanut butter on your penis or on your banh mi sandwich? The original cherry picker.
Yes, that was
questions.
the first domino.
Yeah. Bonus question for you. Would you rather have your peanut butter on your penis or on your banh mi sandwich?
Yeah, I love that. Which one? For me, I'd rather have it on my banh mi sandwich.
I'm not even gonna dignify this, but you can. Okay.
I answered correctly.
Did you? All right. I gotta pick someone for this now. Okay. I'm gonna pick. We didn't talk about this character really at all, but I'm gonna pick Jerry because I think that while someone like Franklin is low-hanging fruit, or like the hitchhiker, just like annoying people to be around. They can't help that. Like there's like some sort of neurodivergency. There, whatever Franklin's situation is, like I can at least have empathy for that and the people around him. But then you have someone like Jerry, who, first of all, looks like Disco Stew from The Simpsons.
He does, 100%.
Yeah,
Yes, he does.
Yeah. He's there, like, egging on Franklin, who's already a nervous, like, he can't find his knife, and he's unbearable. Like, Franklin is annoying as shit. Like, he is bugging the shit out of them because he can't find this knife, and if it wasn't the knife, it would be another thing. And here's Jerry just being like, the hitchhiker's gonna come back and he's gonna kill you, and just like working him up. And it's just like, it's like when a baby is crying, you want to like just calm them down, let them go to bed. And he's and Sally's trying to calm him down and like find this thing, and Jerry's just like, well, this guy's he's gonna get you. He's gonna get you. He's just basically Lonnie Elam. And
oh my god.
And then he's like, anyway, I'm gonna walk off, and leaves poor Sally to now deal with a hysterical Franklin who's just has these thoughts that the hitchhiker's gonna come back and murder him or whatever. And it's just like, fuck you, buddy. Like, you piece of shit. You stay with Franklin. Anyway, that's my thoughts on him.
Do you know that response that he gave when he saw Leatherface for the first time, when Jerry goes into like the den and everything? Oh yeah. And then Leatherface runs out and goes, "Wah!" And he just goes, "Wah!" That was a genuine. He had never seen Gunnar in costume. I don't even know if he'd seen Gunnar Hansen before. Yeah. But in runs this 6'4" man dressed like that with a face on his face. He screamed, and the reason it cuts immediately after his scream into another shot is because that actor immediately ran out of the house into the summer heat. So there you go. Or the Texas heat. I don't remember if it was summer per se, but yeah. Okay. See, now you've left me with quite a conundrum, because I have to choose either who I really do believe I think is the most oppressive person on screen in this movie, or possibly the most hated and derived character from this movie. Because, to start with the latter, Franklin arguably is to this movie what Shelley is to Friday the 13th Part 3D. And but you know what? We got to vote our conscience and vote our heart. We're probably going to get a bunch of comments like, "Where's Franklin?" But
the thing is, like, Franklin is the movie to me. Like, oh my god, he needs to be there. If he's not there, he's not like provoking this hysteria early on. He's sort of like the aperitif of the madness that is like,
I don't know,
impending.
I see where you're coming from, and I do agree as a human being. That said, as a moviegoer, I'm seeing the scene where it's before it even gets dark, when he's alone with Sally after everyone's kind of disappeared into the house, and he's just kind of like, "Sally," but it's like, "What now?" And he's just like, "Nothing. Never mind." And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna kill you. So it does inspire very violent anger from me. But I don't want Sally to slap him, but I want to slap the screen. It makes me clench. But I do think there's somebody who's worse than he is, and if you've been listening, you know who it probably is. It's the old cook, because I think he's really he did deserve to die, because he's the hypocrite among the three Sawyer men in this scenario. He's the most destructive and takes the most joy out of it, because that's another thing. Everything with that broom handle when he's got Sally in that bag and everything like that, it's like, ew, I don't know, it's gross. And then the way he's sitting there at the table, like, talking about, like, I can't take no joy and no killing. It's like, no, you can. You're a liar. and you just want to go on believing that you're like a decent person or some shit, that you're the normal one or something. And I think he probably even likes the fact that the hitchhiker and Leatherface are as kind of far gone as they are, like, you know, visibly, like they turn people off. And so I think he likes, you know, kind of being the one who can pass for normal. And then finally, when Grandpa is the one hitting, is you know, trying to hit Sally and everything like that, basically. I like the fact that, I don't like the fact, but I like that as a villain, like, it's the ugliest thing, just the fact that he's jumping up and down like a little boy himself, just going, get her, Grandpa, get her, Grandpa. And I'm just like, you are disgusting. You are like in your 50s and you're acting like a little boy, cheering on his grandpa, like bash in the cow's head, you piece of shit. I hate you. I love Jim Siedow, though, who played the role. He's great. But
sure.
I don't like the old cook,
especially in the sequel.
Yeah,
I wonder.
And also,
if,
he abuses his brothers. He abuses his brothers too. Like, so no, he deserves to die. He should have died.
I wonder if the it all starts from the top. So like Grandpa was the, you know, even worse.
But I mean, do we even know that? Like, like, it's finding out about Norma Bates. Like, I mean, she's just really kind of sitting there. Like, do we know that everything that Norman said about her, or even said as her, is true? He's an unreliable narrator. Yeah. We don't know anything about Grandpa except what we hear, that he killed them the best. But it's like, you know, you're kind of off your rocker. Do you just believe the legends to normalize your own behavior? Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe he's just that he was supposed to be what they call it, I don't remember, like just an old, I can't remember, like an infant old man. That's why he does those little hand gestures when he's drinking the blood. It's like when a baby is feeding and just kind of going goo goo gaga. That's what Toby Hooper wanted. I know it's disgusting. Right. So there you go. That's my choice.
Okay,
so old man cook
versus Jerry. Vote your heart, vote your conscience. You can vote on YouTube in the community section if you are new to the Cherry Picker and you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, but you can also listen to us by following the link down below to the RSS feed, and that's where you can listen to us.
Yeah.
That's not how I usually say it, but okay. And if you are listening to us, again, you can go over to YouTube. You can also vote on the Cherry Picker Pod, which is the Cherry Picker Pod handle on Instagram. It's late. I'm trying to get my shit together.
I get it 100%. I'm with
Follow us there. We post the poll there as well. And we also post the poll on Patreon, which you can go over and you can vote there too, which is there to vote for everyone to vote for, but you can also support us on Patreon. Which would be greatly appreciated, and it helps the podcast continue running as smoothly as it does.
Oh boy.
Where can they find you on the socials, Edward?
Embryonic old man. That's what it was. John Dugan, the guy who played Grandpa, that's what he called it. It was described as an embryonic old man who had grown so old that he had gone back to the embryo.
And that's where you can find Edward.
That's where you can find me.
in the embryo. It's the Benjamin Button syndrome.
I wish. Oh my, or do I? I don't know. I never saw that movie. I know the premise.
Yeah, so you can just disappear into
younger,
into a nothing.
into
a fetus.
Vortex.
Yeah.
I prefer a vortex to a fetal fate, but whatever. Okay, Edward is truth, one word, traditional spelling. You can see it on Instagram. Type it into TikTok. Type it into YouTube. Type it into what's the other one? Oh, Letterboxd. And you should find me. How about you, Zach?
Well, I have a little bit more enthusiasm for my socials, so follow me on my main YouTube channel at ZACK'S, ZACKCHERRY. I am on Instagram at Retro Bitch Face. That's all one word, no spacing, no underscores. I am also on Twitter at ZachCherry8 and the Letterboxd, Zach Cherry. And also go follow all the Macabre the movie on socials. It's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Macabre the Movie, all one word. Check out the Kickstarter as well. Actually, all the links are down below. What's going on next week?
Oh, wait, is it the one with the tap dancing and the
I have.
locusts?
Well, that sounds familiar, but I don't know.
And the brainwaves.
Look,
machine
I have not watched it in a while.
And the sister from Different Strokes.
I don't know. I don't know.
It is. It's Exorcist II. The Heretic. I was going to say the beginning.
The Heretic.
The Exorcist II, The Heretic.
There's a new movie coming out called The Heretic. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
With,
And
with Hugh Grant. Is that his
Oh,
name?
with that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw the trailer for that like 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks. We'll see.
Yeah.
It
anyway,
could be great,
it's not
but
it's
it
not
could
going to be
also-
that. We're
yeah.
doing the Exorcist
No,
II.
we're doing
Heretic.
Exorcist II, The
Oh,
Heretic. Yeah.
there is no the. It's Exorcist II, The Heretic, I believe,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because that would just be silly. That would be like the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, the beginning. Like, you don't need all the thes in there. The Fast and the Furious. All right.
There's a movie called The Fast and the Furious.
The Furious. But then they got rid of the. It was just like
Yeah,
like
then they
Fast
got
and
rid of it.
Furious.
Now
Yeah.
you're just too fast.
Yeah.
Too
Well, no, they had
fast.
that. They had that. That was the sequel.
Yeah.
Too Fast. Anyway, we are going off on tangents that aren't even relevant now. So. Well, now, what am I talking about? So, thank you.
We're exhausted, folks.
For
Yeah.
watching. Thank you for listening, and we will be right back.